Hello everybody, I hope you all are doing well. This is a lecture that goes over the third section of the tutorial where we get even deeper or we go in a lot more depth with the cascading style sheet, but here we would focus on a few things, and these are all about the layout of your design. This chapter is very important because this is where you start getting or formulating your ideas about how your pages should look. And in this chapter or in this lecture, I'm going to point out a few things that you should be paying attention to. And as we go through the lecture, I'll point out that it is not important that you memorize every single element. That is almost an impossible task because there is so much that you can do with HTML, and it's almost impossible to memorize everything. However, if you understand the code, you can always reference back and see how you want to implement this in your page. So as you can see over here, the section is broken down into three parts. One is all about style sheet and layout of the page. The second section is about the grid styles, and the third one is all about the positioning styles. And I will focus on one just to get you started on how to start reading and using the references for doing your work, and also keeping that as a reference for building your website. So the first thing you will decide is, once you figure out what is your website going to be, you need to start thinking about the layout. And as you move through the chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you will see how they are being used in different kinds of a layout. So only thing you got to do on your final project is to choose one of these layouts, or you can have a combination, but then add more pertinent content. Of course, you can change the styling if you like a particular color, if you want to move your layout a little differently for a certain page. Again, it will be driven by the content that you are trying to display, how much of this or what kind of important announcements that you would want to include in your page. So I'll refer to these things as we go along. Now this is the folder structure, and this is extremely important. As you can see that in this data file, which is your HTML3, you have several of these folders. So you have a tutorial folder, a review folder, and then code 1, 2, 3, and your demo and your individual cases. Each of these folders should house all these files, because if you open up this PC info or a PC home or PC about, they should refer to cascading style sheet files that are inside this folder. They should refer to image files that are needed to render this page properly through the browser. Now, if you happen to move any of this style sheet to a different folder, then you have to go inside your code and add the path for this particular file or folder so that it can pick up or it can find that particular file. So the most important and easy thing to do is to keep these things separate, and then when you're submitting your work, you just zip your tutorial file. If you just work on one individual file, let's say you work on these two files and you send me those two files, it's not going to show properly and you are going to lose points. So very important, the file management, and every chapter is going to show you a little file management just for your understanding of how these pages are working together so that it is showing properly through your browser. So this is the basic design. As you can see, this is a different layout. This is not the same layout that you had seen in your prior one where you are just doing a tree service. Okay, so this one has some kind of a logo, and then you see the styles that you have over here, and these are all going to be controlled with this style sheet. And in your book, it gives you very clear pictures, and it describes what this position or what this particular code is doing. So these are very, very important, and this is what I was referring to earlier. I do not want you to memorize what are these tags. I just want you to know that if I want to create a layout, then these are the kind of tags I need to use. These are my attributes and these are my values and what it does. So then if you want to use a similar style in your web page, then just come back and refer to the code from here. Okay, so that's why it's there. It's important that you understand what these individual things are doing. Do not try to memorize. I'm not going to test you on the memorization, or when you work with your files, that's not what people would expect from you. Now let's also take a look at some of the display property, and again, know what a block is, what a table is, what an inline property is. So in your inline or an inline block, what happens in a run-in, because these are the kind of things that you would need to use on your layout on your pages. Okay, and this is the code that I was referring to, and this one tells you exactly what this is doing. So makes the background color transparent. Now if you want your background to be a different color, you can always change things, but this is basically what it does. But then it also shows you that all these styles that you're applying are actually being affected in every single element. So you have an address and you have a navigation, you have an UL. So any of these elements that you have, you're applying these styles for all these elements. So this is basically telling you when you have a margin and a padding, know what a margin and a padding is when you're trying to write it. What is the difference between the padding, and if you want to increase your padding, then you have to come in and add your value here. If you want to increase your margin, this is where you want to come in and add it to 5 or 2 or 3. So understand what these things are doing. Don't try to memorize it. This is about navigation but unordered list. You want to create a list style, you can do with a none, or you can, this is a default, but then you can do circular, or you can do any other styles. Same thing, if you want to bring in an image along with it, this is where you want to come in an image, and then you have to specify what kind of image you want to use in here. So it's important that you understand how to read through this. Now this is again about the layout. Very, very important. You need to decide on these things on your planning stage. In this particular layout, and again this is the chocolate layout, this is how it is. So you have a header and then you have a horizontal navigation list. Now remember, in your previous one you had a vertical navigation list. Again, it will be pretty much driven by the website that you're trying to create. When you want something in a horizontal, you are limited by the space that you have. So if you have too many pages, maybe it is better to use a vertical one. So these are the decisions that you have to make. So here in your header, you have a logo, and then you have this horizontal navigation list. Now even with this navigation list, and you will see in the later part, there are styling that you can apply to these things. Okay, and then the body section is broken down, and here you have a column section. So this page is broken out in a column section, and then to the right you have a column section. Now this particular column is then again broken down by these individual images, and these may be all links. Now again, this is all about the chocolate website. They found out this is probably the most attractive design, so that you can have multiple images. You can go directly to the individual products that you have. So in the same page, when you are using, let's say this is your introductory page, in your home page you are throwing in a lot of information. So some images, broken down, some text that you have, more links, more images, so that you can get an overview of how to find more content to your page. Next one is talking, this is very, very important, fixed versus fluid layout, and it also brings in this concept of elastic design and fluid design. So what happens with a fixed one is these are the same size regardless of the screen resolution. So if you open this page up, if you're using a fixed layout, and if you open this page up, then you're always going to see this 256 pixels, so that the screen size is always going to be fixed. So if you open up on your phone, if you open up on your tablet, if you open up on your big screen, if you open up on your small screen, everything is going to be on the fixed size. And of course that makes things not look so nice because your phone screen size is very, very small. So you would rather use the fluid style, or which is called the responsive design, which basically adapts to the screen size or the screen resolution that the user is viewing it on. And that's important. And if you want to keep your pages not to be all jumbled up, then you should be sticking with the fluid design. So that's what it's telling you, that now you can basically break it down with a percentage. So taking the screen size, 20% is going to be dedicated to this, and then 40% to this, and 40% to this. So that's how it's broken out. You also have something called floating an element. Again, this just makes things more attractive. You do not want to lose space. You do not want to have empty spaces like this on your web page, because you remember your web page is basically your real estate, and you want to add more to your real estate, because again, you only have this one page that the user is viewing. So you want to throw in enough information for the viewer to keep them engaged, to find things, but at the same time not overwhelm them. Okay, so this is more attractive of a layout or floating that you can use. So if you have an image, have your text kind of wrap around, because you don't want to open up or leave this space like this. So these are different styles. So in this case, this is your floating elements in a row. So if you have an original layout like this, again, see all the wasted space over here. But if you have multiple of these elements, you can use this particular style, which kind of, makes it, arrange it in the same margin, kind of in a row pattern. So you have a little block here, little block here, and little block here. So again, these are all different kinds of style sheets or layouts that you have, and keep these things in your mind while you're thinking about your final project, because you can come in and apply this. Now, this same concept, now they are showing you how they have applied in their horizontal navigation list. And you'll see more of the design elements that you do, and it shows you that when you go to your cascading style sheet, in your horizontal, this is your list. So this is basically just displaying, but in this case, this is A, which means these are the links, and you are now making changes to the links of these pages. So you can have a display of a block, which displays it as a block, or you can align your text in there. So these are different kinds of styles that you have. It also shows you how you can clear some of these values. So if you want something like this, where you have a right margin and you can bring in 2 block quotes, but again, your content may be such where you want to clear this section and you want to keep your image tight with this content that you have. But these are different styles that you can have, and again, it will be applied according to your need. Now in this one, you have the left and the right column. So you have your left column, you have some content, then you have a link at the top, you have some pictures, but then you can add more products, and again, these are probably links to themselves. And again, if you look at the HTML code, you might understand if they are links or not. So what I'm showing you here is, it's very, very important that you understand some of these layouts and try to implement it on your web pages. Do not try to remember all the elements. Just know which one is controlling what. Know what are the different kind of properties that you have, what are the options that you have. Hopefully with this kind of information, you will be able to read through the chapter or the tutorial and not get overwhelmed, because do not try to memorize and remember that, okay, what is the code for this? I mean, do I need to remember that I need to, for my list, all these attributes and all these values? No. Just know that if you're trying to create a style like this, and if you have a cascading style sheet, there are options, and these are references where you can go to navigation dot horizontal navigation. So you're referring to this navigation, and then you're going to the list and then adding the attribute values inside this navigation list. Okay, this is the one that goes into your active links or the links that you're including there. So this is how you can come in and make your changes to your styles on your active links. So understand the code, do not try to memorize. And again, these are all reference points that you have, and as you practice with the data files, you will get better at applying or implementing those codes and viewing it properly through the website. Good luck.